Monaco 2024 Grand Prix race notes. Sabrina. Gentlemen, here's my thoughts. Hold on to your seats, as you might imagine, considering the results. I had a lot to say. Number 1, Oscar and Carlos. I think it was an unfortunate puncture of Carlos's tire. When it happened, my heart sank for Charles and for Carlos. Going into the race, I felt that Charles' success would in large part be in having Carlos watching his back. So when we saw Carlos go into the runoff, I thought, that's it. This isn't the year. Those McLarens are going to double up and Charles will be under so much pressure, let alone hoping that Ferrari don't mess up the strategy or pit stops. But then the cards fell in Carlos and Charles's favor with the steward's decision regarding Kevin, Checo, and Nico, as well as the grid order. Number 2, Kevin, Checo, and Nico. I am not a racer, so I have to say I don't come at it knowing all the rules of what is allowed. I've always presumed that everyone knows the places where you can overtake. From my opinion, it seems like Kevin saw an opening, but he should have expected a close-up, especially here at Monaco, let alone on the first lap and in the first turns. I don't know that Checo should have been expected to be watching to his side when he has the bulk of the grid before him and in those opening moments of the race. What's your take, gentlemen, on who was at fault? Or was it a racing incident? Is that a place where overtakes should be expected? Dick. I think Kevin was 100% at fault. It is the overtaking car's responsibility to make a safe pass. Kevin was forcing the issue and took himself and 2 others out. Boneheaded move in my opinion, but the stewards chose to call it a racing incident. Monaco is just not a track that produces good racing because it is too narrow, too twisty, etc. It is breathtaking to be sure, but it does not produce a good race and hasn't for decades. Because of this, drivers get desperate to make a move and gain a position, and this is where errors happen. Kevin tried to make a move where it is just not on, but you can't blame him because passing is not on anywhere on that track really. Number 3, Esteban and Pierre. It was shocking and disappointing. I don't understand Esteban and what he was thinking. This is one of those places on the track that I do believe you should expect overtakes, but are you supposed to expect your teammate will overtake you in the first lap, especially in Monaco? I was so frustrated and shocked. It seemed so wrong. They were both in points scoring position, and Esteban's actions to me seemed to be looking out for himself rather than his team. I don't think I would have the same opinion if this had happened between laps 2 and 77. It all just seemed like such a waste. My only silver lining from the situation is that Gasly got his first points. What's your take, Dick? Did you see Famin's words? Dick: Ocon took a hell of a ride, didn't he? Again, this is driven by desperation, knowing that it is virtually impossible to pass at Monaco. Number 4, restart decision grid order. Did you think that was the right call? Dick: Definitely the right call, given that the first lap had not been completed when the accident occurred. The stewards got it right, in my humble opinion. Number 5, Charles. Okay, this was the day that this Charles fangirl has been waiting for. I have told you, John and Dick, and our listeners, that my appreciation for Charles comes from the person he presents to us F1 fans. I realize we don't know him personally, and of course not as intimately as his family and friends, but the personality he exudes within the racing world has inspired me. He seems like a good person. He seems hard on himself. He seems to be someone who has fought hard to develop himself into the racer he is and hasn't had an easy road. Yet, he persists. He has interests outside of racing, but attempts to keep them in balance. So going into this weekend, this was his to lose. He's not had a win since 2022. It appeared that Ferrari was putting things in order to get them the victory. That said, Ferrari has a lot of history of disappointing. Ahead of Imola, I was watching old races on the new F1 channel. I watched the Monaco 2019 race. It was clear how much Charles had grown as a person and as a racer. As I watched Imola, knowing that Monaco was next, I hoped that he was doing the necessary things to mentally prepare for the 2024 Grand Prix. Most people would say that this wasn't the most exciting race, and I would answer that you must not discount what happened. 77 laps on hards with a McLaren on his tail, and the same for his teammate. The concentration and discipline he needed to execute this had to feel good to him. He had to have proven something to himself as he reflects on that race. It's easy for us as viewers, especially non-racers, to overlook the discipline and focus required of drivers. And at Monaco, in the front, pushing to win, you could easily lose focus and or make a mistake. Considering his history at that track, there was a probability. Then, of course, there is the team strategy calls and pit stops of the past. Ferrari has improved, but I don't know that any of us are sure they have everything under control. That's where the restart truly was crucial. Can't mess up a pit stop if there is no pit stop. Last week's decision to change race engineer for Charles left me a bit perplexed, most notably in the aftermath of Imola. However, after Monaco, I'm wondering whether the change is what Charles actually needed, especially when you listen to the banter between Charles and Brian during the Monaco Grand Prix. I hope that what happened at this race settles the ghosts of the past. I'm fairly optimistic. He controlled his emotions and demons to execute the race flawlessly, at least from my perspective. Not to mention 2 race starts, the adrenaline and the rush, twice. He had to turn those on and harness it to his will. Things that give me hope. He shared about how he thought of his dad, how this has been his ultimate dream. To race with Ferrari, to race with Ferrari at Monaco, and to race with Ferrari and win Monaco. He has done that. As a fangirl, I'd love to see him win a World Driver Championship, but I also want to see people like Carlos, Lando, and Oscar. So I don't know if it'll happen, but I hope that for Charles, the day he stops officially racing, he'll always carry this memory, this moment, and know he did it. As he was making his way through those last 5 to 10 laps, I really wanted the commentators to stop talking. I was worried that their words would lead to the commentator's curse. I was on my feet those last 3 laps, holding my breath, similar to how I felt earlier in the month with Lando at Miami. I was just willing both of them in their respective races to hold on and get the job done. I loved how Charles shared that as he took those laps, he thought about his dad, his mom, his brothers. He saw his friends and really his hometown with each corner and the joy and support. Wow, what must that have been like? I think his willingness to speak and express his emotions has been one of the things that has most inspired me about Charles from the beginning. He expressed a vulnerability during a post-race interview. He stated that he thought to himself, "You don't know that you'll have an opportunity to win that race again," which I think led him to think about this race differently than ever before. I think he must realize having Lewis come to a team that he is so baked into will definitely shift the dynamic, and if there was ever a place he wants to put his stamp on, it's the Monaco Grand Prix. So it was a bit of a now or never moment. Focus and don't let those emotions run amok. And I think you saw that sense of controlled emotion actually during the national anthem. He seemed to have a sense of relief on his face during the national anthem. He seemed to realize that this was the moment. And even as he interacted with the team, like with the selfie with Carlos, Fred, Elkin, and the rest of the team, he knew it was more than just him. He was doing something for Ferrari, a team who hasn't converted a pole to win in Monaco since Jody Scheckter in 1979, 45 years ago. And I have to believe that he also thought about Jules' first points 10 years ago and one day. Number 6, Carlos. I really respect Carlos. He is highly skilled. Carlos really was thinking about strategy, and specifically he wanted Charles to win. Carlos really played the team game. And for this win to happen, with Carlos right there supporting Charles, that just feels right to me. They are both fierce competitors, but I want to believe there is a respect and friendship that underlies it all. I feel like Ferrari has made a major mistake. I still can't understand why Ferrari is letting him go. Any team would benefit from him. Number 7, Oscar and Lando. I am so impressed with Oscar. Lando is the perfect teammate. And together, I am cautiously optimistic that these drivers will bring it to Ferrari and Max. Number 8, Yuki. Excellent place. 5th points scorer of the year. I have never been against him, but I haven't historically been a huge fan. That said, his performances this year have really impressed me. His maturation and commitment, I hope it continues through the season. Number 9, Williams Albon. 1st points, that's good. They're on the board, finally. Number 10, 2 F1 curses have been broken this month. Lando's first win and Charles's Monaco win. Number 11, Barcelona. That's what I'm waiting for regarding development. And number 12, Monaco off the calendar? This year, and maybe even most years, might not have been exciting for everyone who wants a bunch of overtakes, but I still think that Monaco deserves a spot on the F1 calendar. Why? Well, first, it's a part of the sport's history. Second, it's testing a different aspect of skill. Third, it's a beautiful place to see a race. And finally, you never know what can happen.